All right, we don't need to go down team by team, but I want to look at some of the interesting names that I flagged and I've talked to people about over the last couple of weeks. Con Kneppel with Duke. You got him at number 8 going to Brooklyn. Brooklyn's another team to watch, by the way, when it comes to trades. They're looking to make a big swing this offseason. Good year with Duke. How do you think he projects as a pro?
He's a guy that I've grown on a lot over the last several months. He's someone that, you look at him and I think he was 6'5", barefoot, doesn't have a big plus wingspan, not super athletic, but like he has some real strength. He has real feel. Like he can go play in the ball screen and he can shoot the lights out. Like the floor is really high. At worst, Con Kneppel is like a low end starter who makes threes. At best, he's probably like a high level third option. And I love everything like that he's made of. I think he's going to interview really well. I think he's super. I think he's tough. I think Duke won not just because of Cooper. Like Duke became a machine down the stretch until those final 8 minutes against Houston, because Con Kneppel raised his game, and because Malawatch, who will also I think be a top 10 pick, he raised his game and changed their defense. And I think Con is a really good player, and I think again he could end up as high as in that like 5-ish range. Like again, especially if Utah weren't to drop out, if they say we just need to get a good player, like. He fits a little more than a Fierce does for sure.
That you can't draft the second guy from Duke. You can't say you can't.
I don't disagree.
If you're the Jazz, be like, don't worry, we got a Duke forward. We got him. It's not the guy that we're looking for. Malawatch is interesting too. Like, what is his offensive upside? Like, what is like? I can see him being a great defensive player. He's got the size, got the length, he's got all those things. Offensively, like, what does he project? What is his ceiling as an offensive player?
The first time I watched Malawatch was at the Basketball Outboarders camp during All-Star Weekend in Indy.
He's only been playing basketball for 4 years,
4 or 5 years.
And
you saw he was raw, but like he was shooting threes and looked pretty good doing it. And you could put on the floor. He has some level of feel. Like he's not lost out there. Now again, is he going to be a dominant post presence? I don't think so, but he is just like overwhelmingly big. I mean, his measurables are elite. He plays big too. I think he's probably never a guy you're anchoring your offense around, but I think he could be good enough on that end of the floor to where he makes sense to draft him, especially given the defensive upside. And again, you're probably going to be riding the wave a little bit with him early on. It's not going to be smooth because I do think, again, you saw him, I think sometimes deal with physicality, struggle with older guys. But again, that's what comes with drafting a guy who's only played basketball for a couple of years and is still very green. I thought overall he showed more good than bad at Duke, and I think there's been, at least publicly, there's been a little bit of over-indexing on that really bad Houston game where he didn't get a rebound and everybody lost their mind. Like overall, the tape for multiple months was really impactful, and like all the tip back rebounds he gets, things like that. Like those are super valuable, and those are things that NBA teams certainly want and need.
For a player that's only been playing for like 5 years, he's remarkable. I just watch him. Like, is he? I don't know what kind of, like, he's very thin frame, so you wonder about the physicality, like you said, and then the offensive diversity. Like, is he a stretch 5 down the line? Like you mentioned, like you saw him making threes. Like, can he consistently make those shots? That's a question I have about him right now. I want to get to the guy that the lottery pick that I'm most convinced is not going to make it. This is my guy. I'm going to go with Derek Queen with Maryland. Like I'm not sold on Derek Queen. I don't know how Derek Queen projects. I don't know. Like he's physically wide, but he's a little on the short side. He's not especially athletic. His shot profile, I don't like all that much either. Like I watch these clips of him at Maryland, and like you can see a scenario if you squint a little bit where it's like he's, a starter alongside a center on a really good team. You can also see a coach looking at him and being like, what do I have here? Like, what is he going to turn out to be? I'm not a Derek Queen guy, and I'm not alone there either. Like I've kind of run these hot takes by a lot of NBA talent scouts, and they agree with me that he's a polarizing guy. Like that, there's a lot of questions about how he projects. What do you think of Derek Queen?
I think it's a totally reasonable evaluation. I will say he's hard for me to fully bet against because he's been productive at every stage in his development, and he is like ludicrously talented offensively for a big. Like
Great
he's
hands.
so advanced,
Great
great hands, great touch. But I would say this. I would say when I was watching him, he's been like an elite recruit forever. He's always been. Derek Queen's been a name since he was 14 or 15. And when you'd watch him, people talk about Boogie Cousins, and you weren't sure if he'd grow enough. He didn't really. He's really more sized like a 4 than a 5. And I think as he committed to Maryland, the thinking was, man, this guy could be a transformational college player because he's going to be one of these bigs that get stuck, right? He's going to score in the post, and he's super talented offensively. Who's he going to guard? What's he going to do? How is he an NBA player? Maybe he stays around. He's like an NIL superstar. And instead, he had such a good year at Maryland that I think some of the concerns, and I give him credit, like his body is a little better than it has been in the past. I think he proved that he can move his feet. He proved he could play the 4 basically full time next to Julian Reese. But I do think the downside is very real here, where he becomes this like weird change of pace, offense first, like bench big, which is a fine player, but it's not a lottery pick. And I think that would be my worry if I'm drafting Derek Queen. But again, at the same time, I think there will be teams in the late lottery, and obviously somehow if he falls into the teens, certainly in the teens, that will say, look, the offensive upside here is too much to pass up.
Yeah, I had him at my last mock, which was about a month ago. I had him at 7 going to Toronto, and even then I felt like icky about it. Like I can't, because I do see the potential upside. I see a guy that can make catches around the rim, keeps the ball high, does a lot of things fundamentally that you like, but he's such, to me, a limited athlete. His shooting numbers were bad, 53% from the floor, 20% from 3. Like fundamentally, like it takes his shot a long time to get up. And in the NBA, they love quick release. Even for bigs, they love a good quick release. I think he can be, you could, best case, see him be an all-star at multiple slots. Worst case, kind of a defensive liability whose offense never really expands enough to keep him on the floor. I mean, he's too big a risk for me to draft in the top 10. If I'm 14 and beyond, I'd probably roll the dice on him and see him there.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I do think this does drop off, though, a little bit after you get through like 7 or 8 picks, right?
So that where you see the drop off, like where do you see, like, Cooper Flagg at number 1, then there's a drop.
I think
maybe
it's
Dylan
like,
Harper at 2, then there's a drop.
Right. Cooper 1, Dylan 2. I think Ace and Edgecombe are probably quote unquote tier 3. And then I like Fears, Trey Johnson. I like Yakashonis, and I think Khan would certainly be in that conversation.
I like Yakashonis too.
Yeah.
Like he's
I saw him a ton at Illinois. I mean,
yeah.
I still remember I went to their practice in October, and like it was like Jason Williams vibes, like destroying everyone in pick and rolls. And he had some bad turnovers, and one of their assistants came over and was like, he's going to be pretty darn good. I was like, yeah, I think so. I was like, he's going to turn it over a little bit.
Yeah.
He's like, you know who else turns it over a lot? Caitlin Clark. And I was like, all right, I like really rolled my eyes.
There we
but
go.
then he had some games where you're like, dudes don't do this. Like and then he got hurt. That's the one thing. People, he struggled down the stretch. He had been injured. He had a wrist thing. It wasn't an ideal situation. I think Malawatch is sort of like a guy of his own, but I think so. That we're at 9 guys. So you get to 10, and it's all flawed guys. Like, are you drafting Colin Murray Boyles, who's a 6'6" non-shooting power forward? Are you drafting Yegor Demon, who's like super talented, but questions about his shot? Is it Queen? There will be talk about like Jace Richardson, who's 6'1" shooting guard. Nolan Traor's had an up and down year in France. Like, the answers aren't obvious. And I do think there's room for guys to rise in that tier, whether it be like an older guy, like Nick Clifford, who had a great year at Colorado State. He's gotten a lot of buzz. Maybe a younger guy like Carter Bryant at Arizona. He's a guy that people will talk about a lot. Carter Bryant averaged like 6 points a game at Arizona, but like the flashes, like when you watch the film, he really pops. There was a lot of thought, I think, probably a month ago that Carter Bryant could go back. Now it's like, all right, like if he's a top 20 pick, I don't think we're going back to college. You
mentioned the name Colin Murray Boyles. I like him a lot. The NBA is in constant pursuit of 3-and-D wings. And Murray Boyles, I think he's 6'7", 6'8". he's got like a 7-foot wingspan too. He's really long. I think he's got the D part down. Can he become a consistent 3-point shooter? That's certainly a question. He kind of strikes me more as a Julius Randle type, where he's playing through the post. He's a load in the post too. Like he's tough in that post. If he can expand his game beyond the 3-point line, that's a guy I like a lot. He's a top 10 guy to me. I don't know if he's a top 10 guy for everybody, but he's a top 10 guy for me because the things he has, you can't really teach. And the things he doesn't have, I think you can teach. I think he can become, you're looking at me skeptically on that one. You may not be buying Colin Murray.
A lot of people love Colin Murray Boyles.
Yes.
And I understand why they do. He's also a guy that like the analytics models adore.
Yes.
Like this is a guy who like the stats guys in every room have gone in and said like, this is the guy we need. It just, he so doesn't pass the eye test at times as like, again, he's a 6'6", like bowling ball, like post up, go score right now. And defensively, he has elite feel and great instincts and the length to be disruptive. But I think he's going to have to change his body a little bit. I think he's going to have to make threes. And I'm not confident yet he's making threes. But he's also the type of guy that like could go in someone's private workout and shoot the cover off it, and someone falls in love with him in like clearly in the top 10. Like that would not be a surprise at all.
He goes into a workout and shoots well.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to
watch out. Yeah, exactly. And again, I think the ceiling is there with him. I mean, there were games I would watch and I would just be blown away. And then there would be games of like, he just sort of would vanish, especially offensively. And I think that was my concern.
I'm of the blown away variety there. Like I'm going all in on Colin there. Going all in on him. He's my pick for outside of the top 3 to turn out to be an all-star level talent in the NBA. All right, let me ask you about guys that you have ranked in the 20 to 30 range, because this is where teams, now more than ever, teams need to have success in these spots. Like we've been talking at the top of the show about Milwaukee and why they're now in a position where they have to trade Giannis. Well, part of that is because they have not hit on these mid to late first-round picks over the last few years because they haven't replenished the talent. Like Oklahoma City is in the position they're in right now, mostly because of Shea, partly because of Chet, but also Jalen Williams was the 12th overall pick out of Santa Clara, right? Like they hit. You got to hit on these picks, maybe now more than ever in the new salary cap era of the NBA. 20 to 30, give me the guy that maybe you're most excited about, who 2 years from now, we're sitting here saying like, that is the guy that panned out.
I'll give you one younger guy and one older guy.
Okay.
The younger guy is Thomas Sorber from Georgetown. Has like a 7'6" plus wingspan. At times, like he was a top 40 recruit. Again, a guy that I think some people thought was maybe like a multi-year college guy. He just exploded. He protects the rim. He's got good hands, got good touch. He got hurt, broke his foot towards the end of the year. Be interesting to see what teams can actually do with him, what the medicals look like. But he would be a guy that if I was in the early 20s, I would be promising him and making sure he stays in this draft because there is at least a door open for him to go back. An older guy I really like is Yaxel Lendeborg. He's at UAB. He's committed to go to Michigan next year. Just like a freaky size guy, 6'8.5", 7'4" wingspan. Plays with the ball in his hands. At times can be like a uber glue guy, uber energy guy, super athletic. A guy who's developed and gotten a lot better. This guy was in junior college and went to UAB and has really grown. I think he's one of those guys that has a chance to be a riser throughout the process. He's also playing in the combine scrimmages. He's the best prospect on my board that's playing in those scrimmages. And, you know, I think back a couple of years ago when Jalen Williams played and there was a lot of excitement. He was, again, they're different players, but it's like, man, this mid-major guy that people are talking about, I think he goes in these scrimmages against, you know, mostly second round and undrafted guys and crushes them. It's going to be hard not to get excited if you're a team in the late teens or 20s.
Where do you have Nick Clifford on your board?
I have him 17th, I
Okay,
believe.
so you've got him in that range. I've got him 21 on my most recent one. He's a guy I like too because he's one of those, and I want to get to this at the very end, but like he's one of those older guys that I think have become much more appealing in the modern NBA. Like if you're a team that's trying to win right away, you don't have time to wait for a 18 or 19-year-old freshman to develop. You can't wait 2 or 3 years. By that time, your window to win a championship is close. Nick Clifford is 23, I believe. Shot 37.7% from three last season, shot around 5 per game, so that's not an insignificant number. Good passer, plays in the pick and roll. He's got size, got decent footwork from what I can see. Watch that tournament game where he had 21, 7, and 6 against Maryland. And we all know we kind of overrate the tournament sometimes. You talked about the Duke kids, and how they played out. I like him a lot if he winds up in that bottom third there. I think he's NBA ready for a team that's looking for a guy to be the 7th or 8th man in the rotation.
Yeah, there's been a lot of good feedback from what I've been told with him. Again, as you said, like the experience factor is huge. The fact that you can put him in a game and like he's not going to screw up. Like he's like a high feel guy. He's also like a much better athlete than I think people would expect. He's very few guys in college are like driving it and dunking in the half court. He does it all the time. Like he's flying around and people say, "Oh, you're playing against Mountain West athletes." Like, he's doing it against Maryland. He's doing it against Ole Miss. He's doing it against Washington and TCU. Like he's done it at a very high level. And the way he turned it on down the stretch was just ridiculous. Obviously, the tournament game that everyone talks about is huge. But, Colorado State basically played like 11 straight elimination games, and he destroyed everyone for a month. It was unbelievable film to watch.
Yeah, I like him. I think if he winds up in that bottom third, I think somebody's going to get a pretty good player. Last thing for you, I want to talk about 2 of the biggest stars in college basketball that are probably floating in that bottom part of the first round and even into the second round. Walter Clayton Jr., who was the breakout guy in the NCAA tournament, experienced guy, made big shots, made big plays. Where do you have Walter Clayton Jr.?
I have him going 20th right now to Miami.
Okay.
That's probably the high end of where he could go.
Yeah.
But I do feel like every year the star of March gets a little overdrafted. And I think he's a guy like that. He's someone that, again, was probably talked about as a second round pick before March and now will get overdrafted, but I think was probably a guy that was underrated when we were talking about him in February as, going 40th or something like that, right? He has elite touch. He's one of these like dual sport athletes, was a football player in high school, was like an elite recruit too, had like Georgia and all them recruiting him. Goes to play for Rick Pitino at Iona for 2 years, bounces down to Gainesville to play for Todd Golden, has an incredible 2 years. And again, the shot making in March was an easy sell. I think he's a guy, if we're looking at, can I bring him in and have him play right away? I think he fits that mold because he'll just be instant offense.
Does he project as a 1 or a 2?
Probably has to be a 1.
Yeah, size.
Yeah, he's 6'2", not super long. For a football recruit, like not like a crazy physique either.
Yeah, and if you're 6'2", you better be a great defender. Davion Mitchell, Marcus Smart type.
He is not.
He's not, no, but he's a shot maker. I think he'll wind up in somewhere in the first round. The last guy is my favorite player from the NCAA tournament, a guy that very few people, and I'm guessing you're one of them, do not have going in the first round. The best player in Auburn basketball history, according to Charles Barkley, Jahani Broome. I'm a huge fan of this kid's game. He's, again, on the older side, 23, I think. But, looks like he can step in and play right away. Where do you project Jahani Broome?
Yeah, I had Broome going to the Clippers at 30.
Oh, you've got him in the first round. Now we're talking. I love it. I love it. Most people have him kind of mid-second, I've seen.
Yeah, I think he'll be a very fringe first-round guy.
Yeah.
But, I think he's got a chance. Look, I think the one thing I would say with Broome is this. He has found ways to produce everywhere he's been. Went to Moorhead, destroyed everyone. Actually went to the Combine after his first year at Auburn. I think he was at the G League camp first, destroyed them, got the bump up, was like double guy throughout the scrimmages, went back to school, got a lot better over the last 2 years, and now is in a position to still be like an early second round pick or something like that. Like, I think the ceiling is limited. He was pretty rough defensively this year once he played the 4.
Yeah.
And I do think he probably has to be a 4 a lot of the time in the NBA because he's a little smaller. But I think there's a package there. And if nothing else, he's going to come in and bring energy and rebound and score the basketball. He's a good player. He's someone that I would be, again, if we're talking about controllable assets that can be put in a game and not destroy the team, Jahani Broome would fit that.
He's a good paint scorer. He is a very good playmaker. So, if you're looking for a point forward, he has that potential. I agree there are limitations. The jump shot's atrocious. Like he's got to fix that. But like in today's NBA, like every team has a shooting coach. Guys come into the NBA with mediocre jump shots all the time. NBA shooting coaches work it out, turn them into reasonably consistent three-point shooters. If he can become like a mid-30s, high 30s three-point shooter, that is a rotation player. That kid can play, Kevin. I'm telling you. Like, maybe I am oversampling, over-indexing the NCAA tournament, but watching that kid play in big moments and perform was really something to watch there. I think if you're sitting there, if you're like the LA Clippers or the Celtics, and you're sitting in the back end of the first round, and you're trying to save money down the line by getting a controllable player on a cheap contract for the next 4 years, that's a guy I would take. I think he's going to be in your rotation as early as next season.
I think that's totally fair. Like I'm in on that. We'll be Broom Island here.
Broom Island. Yes, we are the first, maybe not the first two, but we are, because I think Charles Barkley's number one. But we are joining Charles Barkley on Broom Island there. Colin Murray Boyles, I might be on my own on that one. Like that's my own one there. But I'll take it. I'll be the only guy on that out as well.